As you may have already seen, the Nintendo 3DS has gotten ridiculously expensive, with prices ranging from $200 even up to $350. But there's one 3DS that has managed to stay relatively affordable, and it's the 2DS. And I think today, this one may be the best one to buy. And in this video, I'll explain why. Let's get straight into it. The reason I think the 2DS may be the best 3DS to get today is simple. The price. You could find a used 2DS for around $60 to $120, which is significantly cheaper than the roughly $200 or more that you can expect to pay for some of the other 3DS models. But just because the 2DS is cheaper does not mean you're getting a cheaper gaming experience. The 2DS is a 3DS, so it can still play pretty much the entire 3DS library and DS library. There are a few exceptions though, in that it can't play the new 3DS exclusive titles. However, there's only like 10 to 15 games that actually require a new 3DS. The most notable titles like Xenoblade Chronicles and Fire Emblem Warriors can also be played on the Switch, and Minecraft can pretty much be played everywhere. So for most people, you're not really giving up much by going with a 2DS. So there's one big difference between the 2DS and every other 3DS, and it's the 3D, and I personally hate it. I don't think the 3D effect works that well, and it actually gives me a headache, and after using it for a while, my eyes just start to get cross-eyed and feel weird, so I pretty much always play with it turned off. So why pay a premium for a feature you're probably just going to leave turned off? Now, there are definitely games that make really good use of the 3D, like Super Mario 3D Land and The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds, and I can appreciate what the effect adds to those games, but even with those games, I still just prefer to have the 3D turned off, and I'm really not missing much by doing so. The 2DS is also super durable, which makes sense since Nintendo had designed it specifically for younger kids as their first device. Since there's no hinge, you don't have to worry about accidentally snapping the screen off or the hinge wearing out. If you're a parent looking for a 3DS for your child, this is definitely a great model for them to get. There's another thing I really like about the 2DS, and that's how comfortable it is to hold, especially if you have larger hands. When I'm playing with the 3DS, I find myself holding the system more like a claw, with my fingers doing most of the support. I don't really put my palms like into the corners, because then it's like more uncomfortable, especially if I have to reach the D-pad. Like look at my thumb on the left, I have to like fully fold it, so when I hold it in a claw, I can hold it more comfortably. But with the 2DS, my palms do touch the corners of the system, so I can hold it more comfortably and securely. I also really like the position of the buttons because they sit a lot higher than the other systems, so I can hold it securely like this, and my thumbs don't really have to do the whole weird bending to get to them. For the D-pad, it is a little lower, but higher than the other ones, so I just had to slide my hand a little bit. But even then, it just feels way more comfortable. Another thing I also really like about the 2DS is actually the screen size. Although it's physically smaller, as we can see next to the 3DS XL, because the screen is smaller, the image actually looks a lot sharper. As you can see here, you can't really notice a lot of the little small pixels, but when you look at the 3DS, since the image is more stretched out, you can see a lot more of those little pixels and jagged edges on Mario. But obviously the 2DS isn't perfect. The biggest downside is the lack of a clamshell design, because on a traditional 3DS you can close the system and completely protect both screens, but with the 2DS the screens are always exposed, so they're more susceptible to getting scratched or collecting dust. And while I personally like the smaller screens, that's not going to be the case for everyone, especially if you're getting older and your eyesight, back and knees aren't what they used to be. So while I think the 2DS has a lot going for it, there are definitely some trade-offs. So, is the 2DS actually the best 3DS to get today? Well, the answer is the one everybody hates, and it's that it depends. If you want the biggest screen, 3D, the most powerful hardware, and a lot of the extra features, then obviously not. But if you're on a budget and you only care about playing the 3DS games, DS games, and emulating some of the other consoles, then I think the 2DS is an excellent device to buy. You're giving up some features, but you're not giving up the core experience. And today, when 3DSs are going for ridiculous prices, I think that's what makes the 2DS so appealing. But what are your thoughts? Do you currently own a 2DS, or maybe you're planning on getting one? Let me know down below in the comments. And if you want to know what a modded 3DS can do, then you won't want to miss this video.